This is my best buddy, Cheetah. He is a retired racehorse who somehow ended up at a trail riding place that sadly neglected him when he got what we call a knobby knee. So he can't be ridden, but he loves his life, and he spends most of his days meandering around the ranch like a happy little doggy. And I thought tonight is a good night to read a chapter from our favorite book, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Then one of the judges of the city stood forth and said, "Speak to us of crime and punishment." And he answered, saying, "It is when your spirit goes wandering upon the wind, that you, alone and unguarded, commit a wrong unto others, and therefore unto yourself. And for that wrong committed must you knock and wait a while, unheeded, at the gate of the blessed. Like the ocean is your God self. It remains forever undefiled. And like the ether, it lifts but the winged. Even like the sun is your God self. It knows not the ways of the mole, nor it seeks the holes of the serpent. But your God self dwells not alone in your being. Much in you is still man, and much in you is not yet man, but a shapeless pygmy that walks asleep in the mist, searching for its own awakening. And of the man in you would I now speak, for it is he and not your God self, not the pygmy in the mist, that knows crime and the punishment of crime. Oftentimes I have heard you speak of one who commits a wrong, as though he were not one of you, but a stranger unto you, an intruder upon your world. But I say that even as the holy and the righteous cannot rise beyond the highest, which is in each one of you, so the wicked and the weak cannot fall lower than the lowest, which is also in you. And as a single leaf turns not yellow, but with the silent knowledge of the whole tree, so the wrongdoer cannot do wrong without the hidden will of you all. Like a procession, you walk together towards your God self. You are the way and the wayfarers. And one of you falls down, he falls for those behind him, a caution against the stumbling stone. Aye, and he falls for those ahead of him, who though faster and surer of foot, yet not removed the stumbling stone. And this also, though the word lie heavy upon in your hearts, the murdered is not unaccountable for his own murder. And the robbed is not blameless in being robbed. And the righteous is not innocent of the deeds of the wicked. And the white-handed is not clean in the doings of the felon. Yea, the guilty is oftentimes the victim of the injured. And still more often, the condemned is the burden-bearer for the guiltless and the unblamed. You cannot separate the just from the unjust and the good from the wicked, for they stand together before the face of the sun, even as the black thread and the white are woven together. And when the black thread breaks, the weaver shall look into the whole cloth, and he shall examine the loom also. I think of that often in movies where the theme is revenge. And I just think, wow, we're really extending the storyline here. Like if someone had just said, "I forgive you," it would have been an end, and they would have moved on and done something probably more productive. But oftentimes we get so stuck and excited for the idea of justice thinly veiled as revenge. And we would really do better and make a whole lot more progress if we could find a way to forgive the people that have wronged us and know that that's just where they are. And if you're feeling wronged, it's probably because that person wasn't capable of doing the right thing, or wasn't aware of their actions and the consequences it would have, or didn't have the compassion because at some point they weren't shown compassion. And if we just continue that on, then what happens is we go and bomb another country, like say Iraq in the 80s or 90s, and a child has his entire family killed, and he grows up hating Americans because all he knows of them is that they killed his family and his village and his way of life and made his life very hard, and he grows up with the seed of vengeance in his heart and does something like create ISIS. And, you know, that's kind of how it goes. Like, we think that we're doing good or shutting something down by being big and bad and vengeful, but really we're just extending the storyline with more of the same. And if you really want it to end, you have to be the bigger person who actually puts an end to it, not with might and force, but with a seed of compassion. And it might just shock the hell out of the other person and make them realize that they are the smaller person for still wanting vengeance, when there is someone bigger and smarter and stronger and clearer and more big picture who can say, I see that wrong was done unto you, and I'm so sorry that that happened, and I'm so sorry you're in pain, and I hope that you can find a way to forgive me too, and we can move on from this. I love this book. If any of you would bring judgment to the unfaithful wife, let him also weigh the heart of her husband in scales, and measure his soul with measurements. And let him who would lash the offender look upon the spirit of the offended. And if any of you would punish in the name of righteousness, and lay the axe unto the evil tree, let him see to its roots. And verily he will find the roots of the good and the bad, the fruitful and the fruitless, all entwined together in the silent heart of the earth. And you judges who would be just, what judgment pronounce you upon him, though honest in the flesh, yet a thief in spirit? What penalty lay you upon him who slays in the flesh, yet is himself slain in the spirit? And how prosecute you him who in action is a deceiver and an oppressor, yet who also is aggrieved and outraged? And how shall you punish those whose remorse is already greater than their misdeeds? It is not remorse, the justice which is administered by that very law which you would fain serve. Yet you cannot lay remorse upon the innocent, nor lift it from the heart of the guilty. Unbidden shall it call in the night, that men may wake and gaze upon themselves. And you who would understand justice, how shall you, unless you look upon all deeds in the fullness of light? Only then shall you know that the erect and the fallen are but one man standing in twilight between the night of his pygmy self and the day of his God self, and that the cornerstone of the temple is not higher than the lowest stone in its foundation. That's our chapter today.